There we go. I'd like to call this meeting to order, a regular meeting of the Village Board on Monday, November 7th at 7 p.m. in the Germantown Village Hall Boardroom and also can be accessed via WebEx. This meeting has been given public notice in accordance with sections 19.83 and 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes in such form that will apprise the general public and news media of subject matter that is intended for consideration and action. Roll call shows all village board members present except for Trustee Kaminsky, who is excused. At this time, I'll ask us all to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, thank you. Next item is President's Report. Just a couple things to report tonight. Tomorrow there's an election, believe it or not. And I will turn a couple minutes over to our village clerk to give us whatever updates or information she wants about tomorrow's polling places or tomorrow's election.
So tomorrow, the polling locations will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. If a voter needs assistance finding their polling location, they can look this up on the web at myvote.wi.gov. Come to the clerk's office. We're happy to help them here as well. But we have election workers that are ready to go. They're well-trained. I'm very thankful for all of them. Thankful for the DPW for setting up each of the sites as well. So we're as ready as we can be for tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay, and on tomorrow's ballot, if you've seen samples of the ballot for Germantown, there is up to 4 referendums to choose from. Read them carefully or look for background information either online or through your local newspapers in regards to what each of the 4 referendums are meaning and what they disclose. Not all of them are binding. In fact, I think 2 of them are not binding and 2 of them are dealing with the property tax increase within the county.
So at each of the locations, we do have the notices available. If someone would want to read that information for themselves, we do have extra copies of the referendums there.
Okay, so please vote if you haven't already. If you voted via absentee ballot, congratulations for coming and thank you for coming so far. But if you haven't voted yet, please make plans to visit one of the polling locations, the one that is designated for your area of the village, and please vote. That's all I have for the report tonight. So we can go next to announcements of forthcoming events of public interest, committee and department reports. We'll start with committee reports and committee chairs with Trustee Rick Miller.
General Government and Finance will meet on Monday, November 21st at 6 p.m. in this room.
Okay.
And I think I'm on Public Works as well, and I believe we're meeting on Tuesday, December 6th, the next time.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Myers.
Thank you, Mr. President. Public Safety will meet on 12/5 in this room at 6 p.m.
All right, thank you. Does anyone else have anything else for announcements of forthcoming events of public interest, committee or department reports? Is Lynn here tonight? I don't see her. Trustee Pieper.
The Economic Development Committee meeting is coming up. I'm just looking for the date. It is the November 14th at 5 p.m. Are we meeting in here, Deanna? Yes. In here.
Right, and I don't see Lynn here, but just a reminder to everybody that this coming Saturday is the Christmas celebration within Germantown, starting usually with the candy cane walk and run. That usually starts out, if I remember correctly, in the police department parking lot and ends there as well. And then there will be the parade and also the festivities at Fireman's Park in the pavilion there. So usually the big man comes there a little bit later in the afternoon for all the kids that can sit on his lap and tell them what they want for Christmas and also tell them what their parents would like for Christmas as well, if they happen to know that. But it's a very exciting time for families within our village and for young kids that still have the will to believe. So please participate in any way you can, whether it's in the walk and run or within the parade or within the festivities afterward. A lot of local community programs and businesses support that activity for the Christmas festivities, and that will end at about 4:30 at the Germantown Village Park or at Fireman's Park with the tree lighting. We usually have a choir from the Germantown High School there to sing some carols, get everybody in the mood and get ready for the holiday season coming up. And then after that, we do the tree lighting as well. And Santa Claus is there as well to help with that. So if you have time, please make time to visit us and join us for some Christmas fun this coming Saturday. Anything else for announcements of forthcoming events of public interest, committee or department reports? Trustee Jan Miller.
Thank you. I don't know if everybody gets the Germantown Richfield neighborhoods, but in this magazine, we had an excellent article about, believe it or not, the 4th of July. It just happened in August in Germantown. And Joan Schultz, one of our Celebrate Germantown committee members, wrote an article. It's great. And I just wanted to thank the many businesses and private donors and volunteers who contributed to the success of the July 4th, 2022 Celebrate Germantown event, which was held on August 13th. And we had the best fireworks ever. So we will be having another meeting forthcoming, and we'll let you know. At this time, we don't have anything scheduled. Thanks a lot, everybody, for participating.
Thank you for that report. Is there anyone else that would like to report or have any announcements of forthcoming events of public interest, committee or department reports? All right, seeing there's nothing else, then we go to the next item, which is citizen input and public appearance on items not subject to a public hearing. There are no public hearings on tonight's agenda. So if there's anyone within our audience or joining us via WebEx that would like to participate in citizen input or public appearance, if you are within our audience, I would ask you to come to the podium and state your name and your address for the record. And if you are within the WebEx community, please let the moderator know that you would wish to speak and either raise your hand or just make your wish known. So anyone wishing to come forward can do so at this time.
Good evening, Chris Yachek, N116W15041, Brownstone Court. This coming Friday is Veterans Day. Post 1 will be holding a Veterans Day ceremony on Sunday, the 13th, at the Veterans Memorial located on Park Avenue and Freistadt Road. It will start at 11 a.m. I almost said p.m. 11 a.m. At the conclusion of the ceremony, there will be a community meal served at the Legion, which is located about a quarter mile east of the memorial. And we invite and strongly encourage the community to participate. Thank you.
Thank you for that information. Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward at this time for citizen input or public appearance?
Yes, Melanie Smythe, N140W17938 Cedar Lane. Tonight, I just have some information and some ideas for you guys. At first, I was going to speak about the water sewer referendum on the ballot, and I was going to tell you that 6 vote no signs were stolen on Halloween. And then I thought I would let you know that Deanna was directed to call me about the signs and why certain words weren't on them. This puzzled me because surely the village attorney would know that this being a referendum, there's no need to put paid for by because it's not a candidate's sign. But we kind of resolved that. And after all, the voters will decide, as you said just a few minutes ago. What I decided I really wanted to speak about was fiscal responsibility and good governance of taxpayers' money. It's much more important. So here are my remarks. There are 51 days left until 2023 starts, plus or minus. It's been over 2 years since this village has had transparency into the budget in terms of an audited annual report. It's very difficult for all of you and all of the staff of the village to do their work without this clarity into projections or into the actual budget. work that you're currently going through, having sat through the COW meetings, when you've got differences between quarter to date, year to date, partial information, it's virtually impossible to undertake putting together a projected budget for next year. I understand that massive work is being done trying to get everything onto the Tyler Muni platform, but why does it have to take 6 to 9 months? I mean, this will be almost 3 years before you have something that's really workable. It's incredible opacity. And as trustees, I don't even know how you would be comfortable with this. A few months ago at a Plan Commission meeting, I stated that it looked like a recession was on the horizon and that development of large industrial buildings was going to pull back. And I was scoffed at the time, but it's actually happening. I read a lot of financial magazines and do a lot of work in tracking down forecasting. So I try to have insight into those things for business, but for other reasons as well. We need a back to basics plan. So this is where I get into my ideas to help weather this recession that's coming. The meeting earlier this evening was police and fire. And I'm glad to see that we're starting to work with the chiefs in a committee to establish the incremental addition of people and equipment over 3 to 5 years. Not all of you were here, but there was not good news coming from the chief in terms of projections of retaining people, finding people, and what is going to be needed. That needs to be seriously thought through. We need to find money from other budgets and get into the habit of paying for this incremental increase in people and equipment for both fire and police. The world is not getting safer, and our aging population needs the EMT services. On planning, we've got 2 credentialed planners on staff. Let them conduct the 2050 neighborhood plans to start off. Once the neighborhood meetings have occurred and the residents have had their say, our credentialed planners can come up with a plan and provide that to the village board, and then we can decide if consultants need to be hired to take it to the next level. I think we do need to take somewhat of a pause on development, as you know. Not all of you agree with that. And I think it would be time to put the design standards and review the code in place. Those are things that are on the implementation plan of the 2050 comprehensive plan. That would save about $90,000, as I remember from the COW meetings, which is the equivalent, almost equivalent to one EMT. On road improvements, let's take a relook at the schedule. There seems to be consistent leftover money every year, which says that there's too much work on the schedule to be completed or something. I know Larry could use an engineer who will stick around. There was one at one point, but that person left for whatever reason. And that way we could do more work in-house. There's an awful lot of money that's spent on consultants, and some of that could be found and shifted to go towards police and fire. Water and sewer, I guess we need to get the billing right. The rate increases should be incrementally adjusted, not just shot up at one time. What has happened with the way the numbers have come together is that some people who are on fixed incomes are unable to deal with the rapid increase, and I think there should be consideration for that. We do have a fair amount of older people in this community. I definitely think that we should be reviewing the infrastructure needs for replacement and maintenance over the next 5 to 10 years and make projection costs. Apparently we don't have that, so we don't know what to expect or how much it's going to cost, and we should. The current staff can do the work. They are competent, they know the system, and if they were given the time and opportunity, I'm sure that they could, over the next year, come up with a general idea of replacement and maintenance and basic costs that would help with projections and future budgeting. So I think we also need to get the fiscal house in order. We need to be able to see the numbers and know confidently that our taxes are going to good use. We can't really see them right now, and it's really odd. I mean, it's a strange situation. I know that there's good work being done around that, but it just feels otherworldly. And if anyone knows where those signs are, the police report is 17709. Thanks.
Just a couple points of clarity. You had stated that there wasn't an audit done in 2020 or 2021. There was an audit done in 2020,
No, I
and we're
said
still waiting for the 2020 audit to occur. So we do have actual numbers from 2020 when we compare from budget year to budget year. That's usually made for our own purposes to see how certain costs track. But when we're looking at a budget for 2023, it's actually coming from the departments and what they've met with the village administrator and what they've worked out in as regards to their revenues versus their expenditures and what they're proposing based against a possible rate increase on the tax levy. So it's nice to have those numbers to track and make questions about any significant increases, but it isn't absolutely necessary, nor is it a hidden number of what we're looking for at our budget in 2023. Those numbers are there based on what's been proposed from each of the different departments, and that's what we're considering overall. And when you look at history, you're looking at history of costs and how they track, but it doesn't mean you can't consider the budget for this year. So there is transparency in regards to what that budget is because it's been published. And it's been approved by this board and will be published and looked at for public hearing and voting at the next village board meeting.
Okay, I said 2021, I believe. If I said 2020, then I
For 2 years,
misspoke.
which would be
Well, this
2020
year,
and 2021.
this-
Well, 2022 budget won't happen until
Right.
next year,
And it apparently won't be able to be done until sometime next year.
as it would normally be done.
Right. So
That's
all
not a
this
negative,
gap
that's a
of time-
normal process.
That's a gap of time that we, since,
No, normally the audit for
2021.
this year would be next year and the audit for last year would be this year.
no, I understand that.
Okay.
I understand. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that there's this gap and it's just uncomfortable. I mean, if you, in your business life, this would not stand. In my business life, that does not stand. I mean, it's not so much that you use those numbers from a budgeting creation standpoint, it's the fact of knowing that you have confidence in those numbers and what's left over. I mean, we cannot assign certain dollars based on, this was the conversation at the last meeting, but based on the fact that it not being audited. So it's just uncomfortable. It's really
numbers
uncomfortable.
That you're uncomfortable with
Yeah.
are those that are within any type of overages in revenues. And that would be used either against capital that would not be either borrowed for or within this year's budget, so it could lower the levy. Those numbers will come, and actually, we don't go out for borrowing until February of March of next year. So we have up until that time to get those numbers and then decide which of those additional monies, if there are any, can be applied to capital projects to lower the borrowing, or can be applied to the budget and revise the budget to lower the levy. So there is still opportunity to use those numbers once we go out for borrowing for those capital projects.
Okay, so you think we'll have both annual reports done by then?
We'll see.
Okay, so we're not sure yet.
Well, right now, but we don't need to know exactly now because we really wouldn't do that till February, March. That borrowing and that bonding for capital projects.
Okay, so it just, I don't know, it just feels like you've got, part of this is also the crash that happened, which is unfortunate, obviously, and set Deanna and her team and Matt and those people back in terms of putting things in. But I mean,
But what you're doing is you're questioning the validity of the budget as it's coming out of the departments based on last year's numbers. The validity of the budget is what it's coming from the departments to this board to decide on what we want to increase or not increase against the tax levy. We can use history to see how it tracks, but it doesn't stop the decision of the budget. So don't put the validity of the budget in question because there was a lot of work done internally and brought forward and a lot of meetings that occurred within departments to bring forward what they brought forward based on either their increase in revenues projected or their increase in expenditures projected against what we're allowed to increase our tax levy to, which is usually a minimal amount.
Right.
Again, based off of whatever additional monies or increase of new building within the village. Then we can take that percentage and increase our levy against what type of new building we experienced in 2022. So we know those numbers and we can set a budget. So it's not an unquestionable amount that we're bringing forward, it has been worked out from the departments and the village administrator and now proposed to us. And then we look at it line for line to say, yeah, we like this or we don't like that, or we would rather purchase this than that. And if there's extra monies, how do we use that to pay down either capital borrowing or projects that are on the actual general fund budget?
Okay, so that explains more about your process, which is good. And I'm not negating or denigrating any of the work that any of the staff did. I've been through budget processes before, and everybody always comes to the budget process and makes their presentation based on what they want, knowing that it's going to get cut down at some point, and they won't get everything.
But know that it's
possible.
already been cut down before they come by the
Yes,
village administrator.
There was a one round, but
No, there's been many rounds
okay.
inside that we weren't even a part of.
Okay, so as far as we can see into the process, because we don't get to see into the process, there's been rounds of looking at the budgets. What has not happened, because we have not seen it here, is tearing apart the budget and evaluating it based on today's world, because today's world is different than it was 9 months ago, than it was 2 years ago. There's more of a need for certain things, less of a need for others. And so the trajectory of the budget should change from last year and from the previous year. There is more of a need for public safety focus and less of a need for lots of consulting firm expenditures. In my view, this again is my opinion, I'm giving you my ideas. But this is not only my idea, or I have spent a lot of time talking to lots of people in this village over the last few months, and I have consolidated other people's thoughts on this, and they are saying public safety is more of an issue, and a lot of people are saying it's not just me. You know, my opinion on this development needs to squash down a little bit in focus. So I'm just offering this to you. People are kind of expecting more police officers. They're expecting a certain level of safety. They're expecting that our old people have the EMTs to come and help them if they need them.
Well, part of what that last statement is, we had EMTs and EMS, and we've transitioned the fire department to paramedics over the last 2 years. So we have provided
Apologize,
better
my
service.
terminology is incorrect.
And we have also added full-time staff to where we're 24/7, 365, where before it was paid on call. So transitions have occurred in a crawl, walk, and run, much like that was discussed at the public safety meeting today. But you can't put 11 firefighters on a budget, which would be over $1.2 million, and increase your levy to cover it. That would require a
Right.
referendum, which other villages are doing.
Yeah.
And it's always 11, and anytime you hire a fire department personnel, you cannot hire one. You need to hire in multiples of 2 or 3, because it has to deal with covering equipment and covering shifts and covering vacations. Much like also the police department. We've tried, and we did last year, add an officer to their staff, and we're looking at trying to do that again this year. But know that every officer is about a 0.1% increase in your levy, because it's about $80,000 to $100,000 per officer increased. Same thing on the fire side. So as you're looking at those things, if they want to bring forward a referendum to make that much of a jump against the levy and the citizens feel it's important enough, they can decide to vote on that. But we are hamstringed by the amount we can increase our budget by state statute.
Yeah.
And we've shifted a lot of our stuff off of the roads, and we've also taken some other things away that aren't as important in equipment and some services, and we're looking at ways to add staff where it's needed. So those things were pulled apart at all the committee of the whole meetings that we had prior to this.
No, they weren't. I was at all of them.
They were all discussed, openly discussed.
You didn't spend an awful lot of time doing that. You didn't, because the first meeting you said, well, we have to get through all the meetings. The second meeting, well, we have to get through all the meetings. And then the last meeting, you didn't have any discussions. So that's not true. I'm sorry, that's not true. I sat through them all. They're on.
There were plenty of movements that were made on different pieces of equipment and different services. And there were lots of proposals to bring forward public safety officers in one way or another. Yes, those discussions happened.
I'm going to suggest that this is beyond the scope of citizen input. It's really for her to give us information.
Okay, thank you.
We're getting far too close to a discussion on the budget.
Is there anyone else? Thank you, Melanie. Thank you, village attorney, for reining me in, because I'm the one that was not recognizing that, so thank you. Anyone else wishing to come forward at this time?
This one? This one? Which one? I am.
Kind of up.
Thought the mic was rich.
You must have too big of fingers, Scott.
Could
But
you
Melanie,
in the back room just flip on the
Emily will get it.
microphone?
Emily's talented. This happened earlier, wasn't it? Hey,
There you go.
since I'm tall, can I take it on?
That's fine.
Okay.
Start singing.
Yeah, so I know that probably not everybody in this room, but probably 7 of you have seen this before, 7 of 9 of you. I know that some of you went through the process, and I think everybody in the room is thankful that I don't want to have a budget discussion right now. So I decided to take a different tack tonight because I came across this, and if I had to put a term on this, I would call it the blueprint for success for the village of Germantown. Facilitated by Paul Roback, who I personally know, who's facilitated things for the nonprofits that I work with in a leadership role in this village. Paul is excellent. Paul is cheap, if not free. Paul has done this for you guys. Whatever you guys paid to him was worth it. He has done a complete plan for everybody. And I know all of you up there have seen this. So we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We just need to follow this plan. And this plan goes back to 2019 into 2020. COVID hit. One thing I'll say in regards to COVID is earlier I was at the public safety, and their overtime was $57,000 during COVID in 2020 due to the fact that there wasn't traffic on, due to the fact that the world changed and it was 57,000 and now it's quite a bit higher. So COVID did change things. In regards to the budget only, your numbers may change from 2020 to 21 to 22. I'm just saying that. So anyways, I'll move on. The only thing I want to talk about really is page 12. Microphones. And excuse my scribbles on there. So what Melanie said earlier, back to basics, doing things in-house, and go out and talk to the people. The advantage I have, well, you guys all have the advantage too, is you can go out and talk to people in the village and ask them what they think. It's probably easier for me because I'm not an elected official, because sometimes those people don't like to talk to elected officials. But me, they're pretty much an open book, and for whatever reason, being in the village for 30 years, I know a lot of people, so I go ask them, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think of that? They're pretty honest about it. So I think what they want to see from this board, and again, it's on you guys to decide if you want to go there, is to give them more, I don't know, something to hang on to, as it were. They're still suffering from COVID. They're suffering from this recession that we have. They're suffering, okay? So anything you guys can do to give them, I don't know if it's hope, a change in whatever, okay? I think there's good ideas on this facilitation plan. What I do notice, though, is apparently we never finished. What I see is the facilitation. The implementation is where you add metrics and measurements of what you're trying to do. I think we're about 80 to 85% there on this plan. And I think you should have Paul Roback come in and finish the rest. He's an excellent facilitator. He was here back in October and facilitated for Leadership Germantown, which I'm on the board of, and did an excellent job. And I know Paul. So somebody should reach out to Paul and do this as a retreat or something for you. Just a couple things. I reordered what I consider important, and I'll finish. Fiscal. Listen, in my world, your world, you guys work. If you don't have your fiscal house in order, it doesn't matter what plans you have for wonderful things, you can't afford them. So fiscal, in my opinion, is first. Second is public engagement. Transparency to the public. We can argue about what that is, but I call them the villagers. I think that's a good word, but the residents of Germantown don't feel like they know what's going on. Perhaps some people on this board would agree with them in some regard with some of the things they're asked to make decisions on, but they don't feel like there's transparency from this village. And again, I run to people every day and I hear it. I'm sure Dean, you guys, you get around. Jan, they don't feel transparency. And I think it would help everybody up there if they felt more transparency. So the third is, this was all brought up with Paul, interagency relationships, cooperation with the school district for the betterment of all residents. I heard people on this very board say that we don't like them and they don't like us. We don't work with each other. We try, they try, no one tries. But how about number two? Stop any us versus them nonsense and start working together for Germantown. I will tell you, if you make an effort in that regard, that will pay off dividends, okay? That the school board and village board are working together. And I know Dean could say, well, I don't have a bad relationship with Brian Medved or whoever, but the perception is you do, okay? So change that. I have that as third. Fourth, infrastructure. I want better roads. I don't know if I want a new police station. I'd rather give Mike Snow 4 more officers before I give him a new police station, but we could argue, we could agree to disagree on that. But we do need better roads. What I highlighted in mind is capital spending needs to be within our ability to pay. I want to thank the trustees that reached out to me with my budget. A couple 3 points on the budget. I emailed all of you. I did hear back. And I was asked by one of you, hey, Scott, give us ideas. I'd love to if I had numbers that I had confidence in. No, Mr. Walters, you have confidence in every number out there for the budget. I do not. That's how we differ. You have more knowledge than I do about how those numbers came to be. I can't see those. So for me to offer potential solutions, which I do know, I do have, I understand, I can't do that without numbers that I believe in, because I couldn't do that in my real job. I can't do that here for you. So I would say look at it carefully. And the last one is planning, okay? I stood up here and said, why are we rushing so fast to do the 2050 plan? And I was told that I was wrong. We've been working on it for years. We're losing momentum. We need to get it done. Fine. It appears the 2050 plan is pretty much in place, right? Pretty much in place. So now comes implementation, which, by the way, we have 28 years to accomplish. If it's a 2050 plan, we don't need to develop the whole village in 5 years, okay? I think developers are stepping back because their borrowing costs, like yours, are double. Because they're wondering how to fund these projects, because they're probably scaling back, all right? I don't know if I call that losing momentum. I call that being smart in a time of fiscal uncertainty. So developers are going to want to develop in Germantown no matter what. We just don't need to develop everything in the next 3 to 5 years. That's what I think. So my order is 1, fiscal, 2, public engagement, 3, interagency, 4, infrastructure, 5, planning. We have an excellent planning staff. We know that. We all know that. Let them dig in and give us some stuff, because these people are talented. We don't need to outsource everything. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward for citizen input or public appearance at this time? Is there anyone joining us online? Okay. If there is no one else wishing to come forward, I did receive one communication via the comments section of our email, and it says it was received on Sunday, November 6th, and it says, hello, when we received our water bill for this last quarter, what a surprise inside. First, thank you for the information about delay in the billing, but you forgot to explain about the increase in the sewer amount. We did go back to look at all 24 years of our bills and we couldn't figure it out. So we had to call and talk to the utility clerk. She was very nice to explain about the summer rates. Yes, we did remember the board discussing this at a meeting, but most likely forgot about it due to the fact that it was not brought up over and over again at other meetings like other issues. Here's the issue. Why didn't you explain this with the delay of the billing? It would have solved the issue. If you just took one more step to explain, maybe then we wouldn't have to call and bother the clerk. For the newsletter, why doesn't the village include this in the water bill when it comes out? When we asked the question of the village president, his reply was, we use it for getting information out, such as the water and sewer rate increase. Here's another issue. The village board and village hall assumes everyone has a computer in their home to use. Guess again. We don't know how many times we have told you not everyone has a computer, a cell phone, or a computer. Please remember that it is their choice, so why not include the newsletters in the water bill? There are things may the citizens would like to know about. Please remember your village website isn't user-friendly. Recently was told by our newer neighbors about this too. Personally, we don't care for the website either. You waste a lot of time in it trying to find what you're looking for. In regards to bonuses for the employees, first it was called the retention bonus or COVID premium pay. When watching the October 17th, 2022 GGF meeting, we heard about the numbers of 228,000 or 227,000. Not sure what the exact number was due to the person speaking spoke too fast, and leftover money of the 250,000. Also, we heard to use the rest of the money to cover Social Security taxes. When we questioned this to our village president, we were told that he was disappointed that the trustee didn't tell what occurred during the village board meeting. It was actually what didn't occur during the GGF meeting. We misunderstood. We knew what we heard. Then we asked again. Our trustee said the person misspoke. So, okay, they misspoke, but here's the issue. How much money did they use exactly? Was it 231,586 and 17,717 for payroll tax, making the ending amount at 249,303? Or was it the 235,349 that was paid out on 6/20/22? We would like to know what happens to the difference in the money they paid out versus the original plan from 6/6/22. This could be used for projects to be done in the village. Also, what happens to the $200,000 set aside for employee bonus merit pays for 2021? Did every employee get a bonus, AKA merit raise? What happens to the rest of the money that the village hall didn't use? We know the 2021 budget has not finalized it due to system crash and whatever else, but you never heard about the leftover money they set aside and don't use for merit raises. Is it thrown into the parking lot fund, or do all employees get a merit raise? We are really getting tired of hearing that the village employees are not paid what they should be compared to other communities. You always talk money, but you fail to mention the excellent benefits they have. Maybe the administrator and village board need to sit down with the employees who are resigning to get a better understanding of why. It is not always about the money. For the village board, administrator, and citizens who received the Washington County Daily News on Saturday, November 5th, 2022, did you happen to read the article from the mayor of West Bend? In this article, he wrote how the budget would be used, update the economic development of what is going on, and also wrote what the proposed tax rate for the city is. They will be voting on Monday, November 7th. Just pointing this out. This would be very nice to have the Village of Germantown citizens to have this kind of information too. Please remember, time will be getting tighter for everyone who live on their budgets due to inflation, what we are living in. So we hope the village will get tighter too with the village budget. They need to improve communication and trust, and the citizens should never feel like they are being spoken down to. Also, the trustees should not be spoken down to during the board meeting either. Thank you for your time, Mr. and Mrs. Schneider. And that's the only communication I received via the comments section. If there is no one else that wishes to come forward for citizen input or public appearance, we can go on to the next item on the agenda, which would be the consent agenda.
Motion to approve consent A through D.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve consent agenda items A through D. Is there any discussion on the motion to approve? Trustee Jan Miller. A and B one, you said? Okay. Is there any other discussion on the motion to approve consent agenda? If there is no other discussion, then we would be voting on items C and D. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Myers?
Aye.
Trustee Rick Miller?
Aye.
Trustee Baum?
Aye.
Trustee Hudson? Trustee Jan Miller?
Aye.
Trustee Nightrider?
Aye.
Trustee Pieper?
Aye.
President Walter?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, so consent agenda item A, approval of minutes from the October 17th, 2022 and October 19th meetings. Trustee Jan Miller.
Yes, thank you. I just want to ask if we could be specific with our citizen input and appearance. We always list the person's name and what they talked about, but some of the description is vague. Sometimes it's spoken positively and sometimes it's spoken negatively, but some of the items don't have spoken anything. Like, why did they speak? So usually somebody is for or against, And so could we have some more continuity? That's all I'm asking. So, and then a correction on Ben Hubrich. He specifically commented positively, excuse me, on owner-occupied multifamily, and that's a big difference, I think. I just wanted to point that out. So that's that.
Are you asking for that change to be made to the
Yes,
village?
I would like that change, please. Thank you.
Okay. And that is in the minutes from,
17th
okay,
on page,
it's on the first page, yeah.
yes, correct, Mundo.
Okay, and then do you have anything in regards to the other village board minutes on the 19th?
On the, I asked for B1.
Right, but the item A is for October 17th, 2022 and October 19th. So you're only on
The only comment I had was
October 17th.
on 17.
Okay, then would you like to make a motion to change the minutes in regards to also commented positively on multifamily to owner occupied
Yes,
multifamily housing? That would be your motion?
yes, that is
And
my
then
motion.
with that motion, then you would approve all the other minutes as listed?
Yes, the October 17th and 19th.
Okay, thank you. We have that motion. Do I have a second? Second. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Trustee Myers?
You looking forward to make the change for this particular meeting and nothing going forward in your motion?
And, oh, you're right. Yes, and going forward, just be a little bit more specific if somebody is positive or negative about their comment.
Okay. That's approved by the second? All right.
No, you weren't the second.
You weren't the second? You're usually the second, but you weren't this time. Trustee Hudson? Are you?
Lips didn't even move. Yeah, I'll approve that, but I have a comment also, please.
Go ahead.
I've noticed a lot of people that speak actually speak from written notes, which is great. Is there a way that we could ask for the electronic file and just include all of the speech into the minutes? If we get it electronically, I don't want to tire anybody out.
My general recommendation on that would be no, because your minutes then are going to be thousands of pages long at the end of the year, is part of it. Second, by statute, the only thing that's required is just actions of this body that were taken. So motions, seconds, and the results.
Okay.
And so things beyond that, you end up running into disputes. Not that I'm hearing any tonight, for example, but what did Mr. Hubrick actually say? Was it owner occupied? Was it just general? Those are the types of things that become disputes when you start adding all of that kind of stuff in there.
Wouldn't it help if we had the electronic copy of what they said then? And then we
Well, I mean, if you want to take it that far with respect, then you could pay somebody to transcribe the comments. We record the meetings, they're tape recorded. Anybody who,
I pay somebody to do that when you can take a file and attach the file.
because if somebody, let's just say Ms. Smythe, who comes prepared with comments typically every meeting.
Good.
She would hand those comments to you, and then you had somebody else that comes in and doesn't provide those comments and is unwilling to do that. You've now got two competing, standards by which you're treating folks.
Further discussion on the motion to approve the minutes with the changes recommended on October 17th, 2022 and October 19th. Trustee Jan Miller.
But Brian, isn't the citizen comment, it's at will? It's if a person wants to or not. So if they want to or not give their notes, what's the difference?
Because at the end of the day, the minutes reflect the actions and what took place at this body. I think just indicating that Ms. Smythe spoke on whatever she spoke about, whether it was positive or negative, is sufficient for the purposes of our purpose, which is, hey, what happened at the meeting? We had some people came and they talked about this particular topic. Just like with any other item that's on the agenda, if you want to know more and want to review the, the recording, review the video, you can go back and do that and find out the details and the specifics from there. But we typically don't go above and beyond that because it just, I mean, those of you who were on the board with our last clerk will remember that we were at one point were 12 meetings behind on minutes because she tried to include too much of that stuff and it just overwhelmed her.
Further discussion on the motion to approve as requested in changes? No further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Not opposed. Motion carries. Item B1, Trustee Jan Miller.
I just wanted to get explanation on two of the checks that were written from October 14th. I did not have the AP ledger, and I may have misplaced it. But I'll just give you the check number from 1014. There was Michael's Road and Stone. I just want an explanation. It was for $1,132,876.13. This is obviously approved, but I wanted to know what roads it was for. I'm surmising it's a road. And the other item, there's only two. The other item is 173, these are check numbers, 435, Payne and Dolan for $92,543.43.
Both checks written for road projects. The $1 million plus check was written for the Holy Hill Road reconstruction. And the one for Payne and Dolan was our 2022, that was the Country Air reconstruction project.
Okay, and in both cases, Larry, has it been completed, the project?
Country Air project has been completed, but that pay request, the check you're talking about would not be the final payment. And the Holy Hill Road project remains under construction.
Okay, so it's a partial payment as well?
Progress payments.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate that.
Okay, anything
Yes.
else in item or for item B1, just those two items? Would you
Just
then,
those two items.
would you
yeah.
then make a motion to approve accounts payable for items B1 through 5?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to approve items B1 through 5.
Okay. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on that motion to approve items B1 through 5? No discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Jan Miller,
Aye.
Trustee Baum, Trustee Hudson, Trustee Rick Miller,
Aye.
Trustee Myers,
Aye.
Trustee Nightrider,
Aye.
Trustee Pieper, President Walter.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, that takes care of consent agenda. Next item is unfinished business. With unfinished business, item A of the library condenser funding. Give us more information on that. We have our budget director here, Matt.
Good evening. At the October 17th village board meeting, the board opted not to fund the library condenser replacement project with bond proceeds. So in this memo that is provided in your packet, I provided 4 funding options for that project. One would be to use general fund reserves to pay for the project. Another one would be to use ARPA funds. And then options 3 and 4 are a split between general fund reserves and the library capital fund, or ARPA and the library capital fund. In addition, the village board could split it between general fund reserves and ARPA as well for a 5th option.
Trustee Jan Miller.
I'd like to make a motion to pay for the condenser under option number 1. Option number 1,
That'd be general fund reserves.
general fund.
Second?
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Trustee Hudson.
I still, excuse me, I don't have answers to my questions as to whether we can use the library capital reserve or we cannot.
Right.
You can.
We can.
Yes.
Thank you.
Trustee Jan Miller.
I was wondering if we could allow the library director to address the question about the Washington County Offset Capital Fund. At our last meeting, trustee Hudson asked for Brian to research it, and we didn't get anything in our packet.
Yeah, well, you've got the floor.
Trish, you would like to come forward?
Do you have any specific questions?
Yeah, I apologize for my level of frustration. I have no questions for you.
Okay.
The question I have, the question that I asked was, there is a differing of opinion as to
Sure.
whether those are set aside funds for library expansion or whether they are maintenance funds. The question that was asked to the village attorney and has been asked to the village administrator multiple times is whether we can use those funds for maintenance of the library or not. I'm asking for a legal opinion.
Okay. Sure.
I do have a copy of the agreement in front of me, and reading section 8 of the agreement, it says, these funds may be retained in a non-lapsing account to offset future capital needs. Capital needs include buildings, fixtures, and equipments with a useful life of 5 or more years. All expenditures from the capital cost offset funds shall require a 50% municipal match.
Thank you. I've read the document multiple times myself. I appreciate that. Again, there is a differing of opinion, not within myself. I know how I feel. There are differing opinions among board members as to what those funds are set aside for. What I have been asking for is, what is the correct answer? No offense, Matt, you're a very intelligent individual. You're not an attorney.
No.
I may.
No, yeah, thank.
Do you want to speak, Brian?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that my opinion is that those funds may be used just as Matt indicates. And that is an opinion that is shared not only by me, but by the county's attorney as well.
I mean, I just wanted to comment that the countywide service agreement does state that we would need a vote for the library board to use those funds, since the library funding is controlled by Wisconsin state statute. So we would need a vote from the library board in order to use the county capital funds. And then we have had discussion about the county capital funding prior to the debt service being paid off for our original building. I believe it was paid off in 2021. We were using all of the capital. The impact fees for debt service. So we had not touched that capital fund, with a couple exceptions of the roof replacement and our digital sign. At the board meeting in October 27, 2021, the library board meeting, the board did discuss that now that we are in the process of planning for an expansion, that the view of the library board was that they would like to allocate those funds for a building expansion project. But they are aware that the county contract does state that we could use those for maintenance as well.
So just so everyone's clear, the library board then is stating that even though they recognize that they can be used for those maintenance funds, they're designating them to and would not vote in favor of using them for this condenser. They would want to designate the full amount to the addition of the second floor to the library.
Correct.
Trustee Hudson, you still have the floor, I'm sorry.
Don't worry about it. So no matter what the use, no matter what happens with the library building, the library board will not okay any expense for any maintenance for the library? Am I understanding
We would
these
go,
statements correctly?
I would go back to the library board and they would have to vote on an issue using those funding.
And have they voted on this issue?
They have not, no.
So we don't know how they'd feel, actually.
Correct.
But you could ask for it to be placed on the agenda to do so.
I certainly could do that.
Okay. Trustee Jan Miller.
Thank you. I just want to remind the board, the village board, that last year at this time, when we were going through budget discussions, there was the fire suppression system that came to us, and the village administrator asked the library board if they would pay for half of it. And we approved the 2022 budget without the fire suppression. The fire suppression was a total of $120,000, give or take. And I don't know if he's here, Director DPW Scott Anderson said he had already budgeted for it. So the message was we had, as a board, decided that those offset county funds would now be dedicated to an expansion. And we voted that the budget goes through and the village board would pay for the fire suppression.
Trustee Hudson.
Matt, I have some questions for you.
I got answers.
We have $202,000 left over in ARPA funds that are not allocated to other projects?
We have, yes, we have over 202.
Thank you.
Trustee Myers.
I'm confused in regard to the motion that's on the floor. Is that really relevant at this time, according to what I just heard in regard to who has the authority to make the decision?
Well, the motion on the floor, as I understand it, is that the village would pay for the condenser out of our reserves. Trustee Hudson's point is that it shouldn't be us paying for it, that they have their own capital reserve account that should be utilized for that purpose. Is that fair?
Trustees Hudson's point is there may be other ways to pay for this, which could be their funds, or it could be a very appropriate use of ARPA funds, now that we know that we have $202,000 that is unallocated in an account somewhere. That's what Trustee Hudson's point is.
Okay.
Thanks for that information, Brian.
And if I could clarify, this would be, the only unallocated money is the ARPA tree planting.
Further discussion on the motion to use option one to pay for the condenser for the library, or use option one, which is general fund reserves for the library condenser funding. Trustee Rick Miller.
Yeah, I'm not going to be voting for option one because we cut the tree budget out. And honestly, I thought that's where it was going to come from. It was going to come from the ARPA funds. So I will not be voting for option one.
Further discussion? The only thing that I would add, and the ARPA funds are a nice landing point for this funding, where it's less painful for either the library or the village. I would not be in favor of using general fund reserves. We have a fair amount of the general fund reserves coming up for the capital borrowing, which is about right now 3.5 million. And I wouldn't want to draw those reserves down another 202,000 for fear of hurting our bond rating. ARPA funds is a soft landing point for that, but my thought process has always been shared. It's for the library. They have funding and they're holding it for a development that probably won't happen for 5 years. And it seems unfair that as costs come up that they get to choose to use this solely for that 5 years from now and not cover any costs that would come up in between that, or share in those costs based on what the board's decision is. I would rather see it be shared across the library fund and the village fund. That seems to be a fair result to me. More that's accommodating to both and not a big hit to one or the other. But it seems like the board has made a decision in regards to what they want to do with that funding, but has not taken up this one on its own or put it to a vote on its own simply because it hasn't been raised. So I would look at the library board to possibly consider and show us what their vote is for that funding. But right now, we have a motion to take it out of general fund reserves, which I'll also be voting against. Further discussion? No further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Jan Miller? Aye. Trustee Myers?
Aye.
Trustee Nightrider?
No.
Trustee Pieper?
Nay.
Trustee Baum? Trustee Hudson? Trustee Rick Miller?
Nay.
President Walter?
Nay.
Motion fails.
Okay, next motion.
I'd like to make a motion to fund the library condenser replacement from ARPA funds to the tune of $202,000.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Trustee Nightrider.
Again, and I think you mentioned the word shared. I'd personally like to see this just go back to the library board and see what their possibility is. Are they willing to vote for half of it, all of it, or whatever? Get their comments and then let it come back to the village board.
If I could just make a quick comment, we wouldn't, those funds do require a 50-50 match, so we wouldn't be able to pay for half of it. The most we could do would be the 50%.
Okay, but you have not done that yet at this point in time.
No, we have not. It came up after our October board meeting, so our next meeting would be next Wednesday.
I know there's a motion on the floor, Mr. President, but I'll be voting no against that too, because I do think it should go back to the library board.
Okay. Further discussion. Trustee Hudson.
So when do we have to make up our mind as to when we're going to pay for this thing by? Is this something we need to decide tonight or?
No, this does not have to be decided tonight. The board already approved the contract to order the equipment, but payment is not due yet. And we would have time.
Then I'll withdraw the motion.
Okay, motion's withdrawn. Board, Trustee Pieper.
I'd like to make a motion to send this back to the library board and see what the options are that they are able to come up with.
Second that.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Now I know why Trustee Baum wants to sit on the end. No discussion? Oh, Trustee Chandmiller.
I just want to point out that the library is one of the village buildings that is included in maintenance. And up until 2020, the library did not participate in funding any roof, water heater, furnace, or anything. It was paid by the village. And in 2020, before I got on the board, the village came to the library and said, we need help. And I believe it was the roof. The roof was leaking. So we funded half of it. After that, last year, the library board said, we consider ourselves a village building and the maintenance should be taken care of by the village. So that is why we did not pay for the fire suppression. So yes, we could take this back to the library board and run it by them, but I don't think they're going to like that because they've already voted on taking those funds, which, by the way, other buildings do not have this type of fund. They didn't get the impact fees or county offset fund that we've been saving. So Those funds have stopped, by the way. Is that true, Tricia? That's
Yes.
once we paid off the original building.
They stopped because the Washington County Libraries redid our contract.
Oh,
There
that's right.
wasn't
Yeah.
money for the capital, for capital improvements in the county budget because the county's kept us flat at 1.8 million for the last 10 years. So as our costs as a library were going up, we allocated more money into operations versus that capital fund.
Okay.
Which is a sorry state because the county has the ability to raise revenue through a sales tax and has chosen not to use it for that purpose against the libraries.
We're also exempt from tax levy at the county.
Right, but they can also allocate funds to designate towards it by offsetting it through sales tax revenues.
Yep.
And they've chosen not to do that.
So what we have in our fund, which we've been trying to get the total, and we're waiting on that due to the IT breakdown. Once we get that, that is the final fund that we have. It's not, we're not.
At last count, it was 826,000.
And that has been accumulated and funded only by the county and interest since 1998. And it ended in 2020.
Yes.
Yeah.
Further discussion? The only thing I would add to that, Trustee Miller, is that those funds that come from the county also come from the residents, and what they pay towards their property taxes. So it is also funded by the residents of Germantown as well. In previous years, the library has had the benefit to hold that and roll it year to year because they haven't had the large expenditures that come from a building that's now over 20 years old and is starting to require those types of maintenance projects like roofs and heating and air conditioning units. And there was also a leak on the roof in the foyer that was pretty significant. That was also repaired. And the village at that time was in a positive budget years and had more revenues coming forward. And as we've heard from input of our residents and from this village board, this is a different year because of inflation, because of coming out of COVID and just the amount of monies that are available and the needs that are more so. So I think that's why this board is looking at a creative way in which to fund this somewhat significant expenditure for the library. And that's why, in my mind, after 20 years of being able to hold on to that reserve, and now a big ticket item like the heating and air conditioning condenser is needed for $200,000, I would prefer a shared source. And I would like to put it to the vote because I'd like it on record that the library board chose to not vote in favor, or however they choose. I'm not going to project because I don't know, but let's put it to them in committee and put it on record, and then we can decide going forward. The lucky part of that is we do have a soft landing with the availability of ARPA funds.
In addition, can we use any of the $500,000 that we pulled from the roads, the overage,
Right.
reduced from borrowing?
That was reduced from borrowing, yes.
Okay, well,
All right, further discussion on the motion, and the motion is to send this back to the library board to get their input or vote on shared funding. No further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None opposed, motion carries. That takes care of unfinished business. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Trish, for coming up. Next item is new business, starting with new business item A, Resolution 35-2022, Amendment Agreement for the operation of the Mid-Moraine Municipal Court as it relates to the addition of the Town of Polk, Town of West Bend, and Big Cedar Lake Protection and Rehabilitation District.
Motion to approve new business A, Resolution 35-2022.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion, Trustee Pieper.
Yeah, I was trying to get in ahead of somebody making a motion. I'd like to take the two new business items out of order. I'd like to take item I and item J and move them to the top.
Okay, right now we have a motion on the floor to approve Resolution 35-2022, unless a person would like to rescind that motion.
We send that motion.
Okay, motion is rescinded, so the next motion is?
I'd like to make a motion for new business item I and J move to the top.
Second,
Okay, motion made and seconded to take out of order item I as the next item of new business, and then item J. Is there any discussion on that motion? No discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
I
Opposed? None opposed, motion carries. So that is then new business item I, which is Resolution 37-2022, is a disallowance of claim for Nancy Rydell. Village Attorney?
I don't really have anything to say other than as is standard practice where we believe that we are immune or have immunity from the claim, we recommend denial of the same. This would be an example of a claim that for which we would have immunity.
And then it would be then turned over to our insurance company?
One of these, the insurance company has already looked at it and recommended denial. I don't remember which one is which off the top of my head. I think this is the one that was, Chief Gogurt is yours? Yeah, so the first one is the one that was turned over to the insurance company and they recommended denial for the same reasons.
And this is for Nancy Rydell.
Right.
Okay, is Nancy here?
They were here earlier. And
Probably, I mean, these meetings get long. It started at 7 and it's already an hour and 12 minutes later. But I do have a lot of questions about this, and I'm glad you clarified that the insurance company has already denied this claim. Because when I was reading through the agenda, I'm looking through this, there are very detailed pictures. There's a whole lot of detail that went into this. She wrote a very long letter explaining this. I'm having a really hard time denying this claim right now unless somebody here can tell me that this was not the village's fault, I'd have no problem denying the claim, but this sure as heck looks like this was our fault.
So the only thing I can say, and certainly staff is free to come up and confirm this, but typically our standard process on road projects is that those discharges are not connected by us. It's not something we take responsibility for, and the property owner is informed that. Now they indicate that they were not told that in this case. I can't verify whether they were or not, because it's typically just something that's verbally told to them.
I'd feel more comfortable if Scott was here because, she named him specifically as the one who came out and spoke with her. Can I make a motion to postpone this or table this to the next meeting and make sure that we have Scott here?
Make that motion.
Okay, I make a motion to table this.
Be a motion to amend? Or do we have a motion on it?
No, there's no motion.
Go ahead. I just want to make sure there wasn't a motion in place.
This, all right? Only took me 3 years.
Excuse me?
I said, hey, I'm getting better at this, all right?
I just
Only
want to make
took me
sure there
3
wasn't a
years.
motion. Go ahead.
All right, so what is this new business item?
Aye.
Thank you. I make a motion to table new business item I, the disallowance of claim for Nancy Rydell until the next village board meeting where we can request that Scott be present.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Trustee Hudson.
so in looking at these invoices that she's given the village, I guess I have some questions. So whether we pay or we don't pay, I don't think that we're liable to have to pay for a new dryer, considering the one that would be replaced would be used. And then the other thing that sticks out to me is in the quote that she's given the village, she says that they paid for the painting of the ceiling and they installed can lights. That's an improvement. That's not, it didn't flood to the ceiling of the basement. why are we looking at stuff like this? That's not our responsibility.
Those are certainly things that if we were going to handle the claim ourselves, for example, that we would look at and take into account. Likewise, their next step, if the claim would be denied, would be litigation. Those same types of issues would be raised in that litigation as well. It's something that we're aware of, and it just, given the recommendation to deny, we didn't even address it in anything. So.
Thank you.
Point of order, there's a motion to table. That's no discussion, correct?
That's true. Did we get we got a second, right? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? None opposed? Motion's tabled. Item J, Resolution 38-2022, disallowance of claim for David Gogurt.
He's not here either, is he?
I don't know if he's here or not.
I think if he'd be here, he would recognize himself.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line on this one is, again, it's something that took place during a discretionary act of the village. And certainly while we understand that, it's, $700 or whatever it is, in terms of the total.
$959.60.
Yeah. Regardless that we feel bad and we say, oh, we want to pay that claim. On the other hand, if that same person was hit by a squad car during the course of the chase, we would say, nope, we're going to deny that because we're immune. So it's the same concept.
Can I ask Chief Snow to come up and just give us a little background? So the only information, I was trying to make sense of this claim, but all I could figure out here was my vehicle was spiked.
This was an incident. We assisted the Village Jackson on a high-speed pursuit. They were coming southbound on 41. Our officers attempted to spike the offending vehicle, and it's not uncommon. They spiked the wrong vehicle. To put it in context, we had a discussion at the chief's meeting because our officers were involved in a chase northbound on 41, and Slinger spiked a vehicle. That person made a claim with Slinger. I got a call from Chief Schmidt talking about it. And it's other agencies done the same thing. We paid for it out of our budget. It was a chase that we initiated. I should say instigated. That's the wrong word. We initiated.
All the police are instigating.
And so we did, and we had a discussion who should be on because I feel terrible for someone. I do think they should be made whole, but you can imagine that many chases come southbound on 41 on the way back to the city. Our officers are ninjas with the spikes.
Mm-hmm.
They just have got a lot of experience with it, but sometimes there's.
So whoever took this report, is there a way to find out if he has his own insurance?
I've talked to him a number of times. He went to Jackson. He filed a claim with Jackson. They denied it. So he's basically.
We were assisting Jackson.
We were assisting Jackson. That was our position that they specifically requested our assistance on their pursuit.
But this happened in Germantown.
Play court and jury here.
Okay, but this happened in Germantown.
You can't still play court and jury. Because what we're doing in the request to deny is letting the action play out to where that person could then take it to the courts. And now you're introducing onto a public record evidence that could either be used for or against us in regards to that court action, if it's so chosen.
That makes
That's
it
the
bearing
way
on
it
me.
works, though. Then
That-
that's why
that
in
has-
most cases, we deny so that it can go through its process.
That has no meaning to me. I'm sorry. Because what I'm trying to do is prevent it from going to court. I make a motion to approve this claim. This man did nothing wrong.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Wait a minute. So
Yeah.
I'm
the
approving his
resolution is a
claim.
disallowance of claim. So you're making a motion to
approve his
Is that
claim.
possible based on how the agenda is?
Yes, it's possible.
Okay, so I want to make sure.
We've done it previously.
And trustee Myers seconded?
Yes.
Could you repeat your motion again? Because I thought we were accepting it and then the vote would be,
The motion I made is to approve his claim and have him paid for the tires that were spiked of his.
Out of whose budget?
thank you. I take my second away.
Oh,
Move your second? Okay.
okay.
Motion made, but needs a second. Motion has been made to approve the claim for David Gogurt. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Trustee Baum.
Rules of the road, I got squad cars everywhere. Aren't I supposed to pull over and stop? In a high-speed pursuit, should I pull over and stop and let all you guys fly by me? Should this guy not have been sitting on the side of the road already?
And I don't know exactly, sometimes an officer, there may be a vehicle following where the officer can't get the spikes off the road in time, but that's something we always do consider is the circumstances of how that happened, and I don't know the exact details. And again, my concern is that we do assist a lot of agencies that are coming southbound on 41.
Further discussion, unless you have anything else to add, Trustee Baum? No further discussion? The only thing I would add is that 99.9% of the time of claims that are brought before this village, they're put either through the insurance, and then the process, if it's denied through the insurance, is the person that's making the claim can use the court system to their advantage to file their claim and get their recompense if that's what they choose to do. That's the process that we use. And that's the process that's been used 99% of the time. It's recommended by our village attorney. It's recommended by our insurance company. And as long as I've been on this board, I would say about 99% of the claims have followed that process. And we allow the circuit courts then to decide fault and liability and who's paying for what. Trustee Pieper.
Don't you think the courts may actually approve this and we're just saving ourselves court fees and attorney fees?
No, I don't think the courts will approve this. I think we have discretionary immunity, and the principle behind that immunity is that an individual who otherwise should have insurance on his vehicle should bear the cost of that type of damage as opposed to the general taxpayers. That's
But
just
then
the
his
principle behind
deductible,
it.
say he has a $500 deductible. So why should he have to pay it when, I think this is just wrong.
Well, as I said, I mean, it seems wrong when we're talking about the $900 tires. It seems less wrong when I'm telling you you deny the same incident where the officer, instead of spike stripping the car, T-bones the car and somebody gets seriously injured. Nobody has any question that when it's a $100,000, $200,000 claim, yeah, we deny that. But because it's $900, we feel bad for them and we should just pay it. The principle is the same. It makes me the bad guy, but.
Yeah, I wouldn't deny that other claim either.
There's other questions that are in the other claim, but we're on this one right now. Further discussion on the motion to approve the claim? No further discussion? We'll do a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Pieper?
Aye.
Trustee Jan Miller?
Aye.
Trustee Baum? Trustee Hudson? Trustee Rick Miller?
Hey.
Trustee Myers?
No.
Trustee Nightrider?
No.
President Walter?
Nay.
Motion failed.
Do we have to make a motion to deny, or does that automatically take care of that?
I would do a formal motion to deny just because of the language in the statute.
Okay.
38-2022 disallowance for claim David Gogurt as presented.
Second it.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion? No discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? 2 opposed. Motion passes. Takes care of I and J, so then we're back to new business item A, Resolution 35-2022, Amendment Agreement for the operation of the Mid-Moraine Municipal Court as it relates to the addition of the Town of Polk, Town of West Bend, and Big Cedar Lake Protection and Rehabilitation District.
Motion to approve. Resolution 35-2022.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. How about explanation for those watching, Village Attorney? What this amendment agreement is?
Boy, really, I didn't actually review it for this meeting, but I do, from one of our other communities, happen to recall that effectively what we're doing is we're adding a couple municipalities to the Mid-Moraine Court District. Their addition allocates some of the costs slightly different as a result of it. That's the bulk of the agreement. There are some additional operational changes that had been recommended by the court that are also part of the agreement.
Do we gain additional fees because of its change?
We do not gain any fees as a result of what's here. I think our share may go down very slightly, but it's a very, very small amount.
Because it's shared across the other additions?
Some of the charges are shared across the additions, but those are very small communities, and as a result, they don't bring much to the table.
Okay. Budget Director, even though you're not an attorney, do you have anything to add on this?
No, he spoke eloquently.
Okay, thank you.
I think that's the first time I've ever heard that in this room.
Further discussion. Trustee Myers.
I'm just kind of curious as to what did they use in the past?
That I do not know.
I know, I realized that when you gave your first statement.
Typically, most communities like this, and I don't know that it's for sure true with all of them, but typically they would just use circuit court citations. So they would go to the circuit court and process it there. I know that that's the case for the Big Lake Cedar Protection, that they were doing circuit court citations. I assume the other two were as well, but.
That gets to be a little more expensive, but whatever. Thank you.
Further discussion? No further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Next business, new business item B, Class B temporary beer license for St. Boniface Congregation located at West 204 North 11968 Goldendale Road for the Lent Fish Fry, February 24th, March 3rd, March 10th, 2023, from 4 to 7 p.m. Everybody put it on their calendar.
Make a motion to approve Class B temporary beer license for St. Boniface for February 24th, March 3rd, March 10th, 2023, from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. No discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Next item is new business item C, application for public grant program for Christmas tree lot sales for the VFW Post 9202 of Germantown, held at the parking lot of West 156 North 9666 Pilgrim Road, which is also known as the Hillcrest Center.
Make a motion for a new business C.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. No discussion? All those in favor?
Technically spending money, so.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Myers?
Aye.
Trustee Hudson?
Aye.
Trustee Baum? Trustee Rick Miller?
Aye.
Trustee Jan Miller?
Aye.
Trustee Nightrider?
Aye.
Trustee Pieper? President Walter?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next new business item is item D, ordinance number 20-2022, rezoning application to create a planned development district, PDD, with an underlying RM3 multifamily residential zoning district, resolution number 36-2022, adopting conditions and restrictions for the Meisner Planned Development District and two-lot certified survey map to divide the property, accurate survey and engineering, applicant for Elwood E. and Susan A. Meisner, property owners of North 96, West 16248 County Line Road, and West 162 North 9630 through 32 Mayflower Drive.
Move approval ordinance number 20-2022.
Motion made and seconded. To provide any background or additional information on that, we do have our Associate Planner, Emily Zant. Would you like to?
Yes.
Yeah.
Then please present.
Okay. So this is a 0.62 acre property that contains two separate multifamily dwellings. It's located in the northeast corner of County Line Road and Mayflower Drive. The original farmhouse, which is located on the south side of the lot, has been converted to 3 units. According to records in the village files, the property owner has applied for and received permits to construct the duplex located on the northern half of the property in 1976. So the purpose of this proposal is to divide the property into 2 parcels so that each structure can be sold separately. Proposed Lot 1 will contain 0.227 acres and the existing duplex and detached 2-car garage. Proposed Lot 2 would contain 0.38 acres and the farmhouse, which again has 3 units and a detached accessory building. The PDD in this case is used as a tool to avoid creating non-conforming structures.
Trustee Jan Miller.
I have a question. It's stated that the permit was pulled in 1976. 1976.
Correct.
Do permits expire at all?
I guess I don't.
I'm asking a question.
If the property owner doesn't take action to begin construction, but the duplex was constructed as proposed.
So what the permit was completed in 76?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it was closed out is the problem. It was taken out, they built it in accordance with what was there. I just don't think it
Back
really
in
formally
19
got closed out, which is typically just paperwork
Oh,
on the
okay.
back end.
Okay. It didn't, a permit from 76. I'm like, I didn't know if it was for the original house or for, other buildings.
The intent of that comment was to say that the village did grant permission for the property owner to build the second dwelling on that property.
On the property. Okay. Thank you.
Further discussion? Do we have it? Yeah, we do. And the motion was for all items as listed on the agenda? Okay. Sometimes we break it up. All right, any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? None opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Emily. Next item is new business item E, football field usage lease agreement from January 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023 for the Hawks football program.
New business E, motion to accept.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to approve? Trustee Pieper.
I'd like to make a motion to amend and keep the fees for the Hawks football program, to leave it at $12.
That is your motion to amend. Do I have a second?
Anybody second for discussion? Come on.
Just
No badgering, no badgering.
Well, the reason, if I may speak, the reason that it went up in your packet,
I did read the packet and I do understand the reason behind it, but seeing that I have 2 boys in football and I pay $375 just for 2 or 3 months of usage when there hasn't been any improvements in the field, and we're still using a porta potty every time we go to the games. So the fees are obviously going to be passed on to my children, which is passed on to me. And paying I don't even know how much it was, 725, whatever, however much money, so my boys can play football for 2 months. So now I'm going to be paying what, $800?
Would be. Can I hear the reason, Gil?
well, we take care of the turf, and there has been major improvements over the years to the football fields, and we take care of all of them. And up until 2022, the cost was $2,683, which allowed us to keep the cost down to $12 a player. In 2022,
and moving forward with the contract, to care for the same fields is $7,205. And that's why we asked for the increase from the football program.
Did you search for alternate?
Before we
bids?
go further, did we get a second on your motion?
Second, Dennis.
I appreciate that, trustee Myers.
Further discussion, trustee Pieper.
Yeah, so did you look for alternate quotes for the aerating, fertilizing, and broadleaf spray?
We, when we went out for bid on this with the turf management program, and TLC was our best bet.
That was the best bet, increasing it almost 5,000 for a year?
Again, with rising cost.
Did you make it the Germantown Warhawks aware of the plan?
I did. I sat down and I talked to him, and he was amenable to it.
Because the cost is going to be passed on to us.
Correct, but most park and rec programs, any of the
Not a
costs that are
program.
within the program are usually passed to the users because it's supposed to be cost neutral.
It's not a park and rec program. The Junior Warhawks is a private.
Mhm. True. So at the same time, those costs to
gonna be
maintain that field would
directly
then be
passed on
passed
to
on to the
us.
user.
Yeah.
Much like any increase in cost for a normal park and rec program, because it's
Okay.
user
So
neutral.
aerating is more expensive. Fertilizer is more expensive.
Fertilizer is more
Inflation
expensive.
and-
Fertilizer is more expensive because of the nitrates, and farmers are also experiencing a huge increase in their cost to maintain their fields because of the cost of fertilizer. You're questioning if they went out for bids, and your answer was yes.
Okay. I have the floor.
You do, and I also have input, and I am the chair
I
of this
understand, but
meeting.
you interrupted me
No,
when I
am
was
the
speaking.
chair of
And
this
you're doing
meeting,
it
and I have
again.
the purpose to interrupt when I want to, being the chair. So I can and have in this instance, because you're badgering him in regards to the cost. And
I am
he asked a
asking
question
questions.
and he answered it.
So how is that badgering him if I'm asking questions and he is answering it?
Correct, but you're going back beyond and back into the same
Air
question. I'm
raiding
not
a lawn
arguing.
does not get more expensive unless it's an increase of labor. It is a machine. It is not chemicals. There's no cost increase.
So what you're asking is if the cost that he's proposing and getting from his provider, is it actual? And coming in at the lowest bid from all those bids received, this was the lowest bid, so now you're questioning the vendor's cost to aerate and supply all these services. Is that the
I'm
question?
finding it hard to believe that that is the lowest bid. Yes. That is not a question. That is a statement.
Okay. Gil, was that the lowest bid?
Yes, sir.
You still have the floor.
I'm done. We can vote.
Discussion.
Can I, before we vote? just
No, I'm good.
For the purposes of clarifying a record to protect somebody in this room, the Warhawks is an organization that has approximately how many families would you say? Does anybody know?
There were like 100 boys in 6th grade football this year.
Okay, and are those all Germantown residents primarily?
Primarily, yeah.
Okay, so you would say that you are in a class of similarly situated individuals and that you are not,
No, not really, because
you are not uniquely.
no.
Further discussion. The motion is to take the fee from the $20 proposed to the $12. Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion on that motion to amend? No? Their motion to amend was to take it to 12.
So I will just, for the purposes of the record, even though she walked out of the room, which seems to suggest she disagrees with my assertion, she is in a class of similarly situated individuals, and thus there is no conflict. Thus, her motion is still proper. She could still vote on it. She obviously has chosen not to by vacating there, but everything is kosher from an ethics standpoint.
Okay. Further discussion on the motion to amend? No further discussion? All those in favor of the motion to amend, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Opposed? Motion fails. Back to the motion. Further discussion? No further discussion? All those in favor of the football field usage lease agreement from January 1st to December 31st, 2023 for the Hawks football program, please say aye. Opposed?
Yes.
One opposed. Motion carries. Next item under new business is item F, Foth Services Agreement not to exceed $54,050 for rehabilitation and painting of Water Tower 3 on Mequon Road.
Good evening. Back on November 1st, I was requesting permission to get approval for the painting at Tower 3 on Mequon Road. This is through Foth Infrastructure and Environmental. The contract services is for preliminary design, plan specifications, and DNR submittals and bidding process. The total service agreement was in the amount of $54,050. Trustee Nyrider, I know, had some questions, and I can fill some blanks in, I hope, tonight with some of this. Going back to Foth, there are some unknowns in the bidding process, and two of those are the design elements that we're going through with them on. And as part of that, we have to submit a DNR report. The DNR report could be a simple pass-through, or it could be several back and forth conversations, emails, what have you, in what we're going to do. And also what I've experienced with the DNR, they are very thorough, and they like to open up from top to bottom, inside and out, nuts to bolts when you do these capital maintenance projects. So I couldn't tell you standing here at the podium today if this is just going to be a one conversation or several. So that's one reason why they build that cost into the services agreement. And also, as a side note, it's not a lump sum. So if it's under that, under their engineering services time, it could be less than that. The other thing that is an unknown is when we go into the bidding process, because of these design elements, there could be back and forth discussions between the bidders. They might propose item A, and then we have to come back as the owner and the engineers, and we discuss, will that work, will it not work? So those are a couple things. Also, I just need to mention that I think I bid a little bit off more than I could chew for 2023 with many of our capital projects. So I'm going to maybe propose something, still move forward. We all know the painting needs to be done. It's at its end of its service life. Doesn't have to be done next year. So with what many projects we have got going on next year, we've got well 7, the motor control panel is getting worked on, which knocks well 7 offline. We have a $1 million water main relay project that is going to affect and influence our staff levels. Also, we have a rehab of well 5 that takes that offline for at least a month or so. Also, I'm trying to balance risk versus reward on this project. I am thinking it might be better off to wait till Tower 4 is up and constructed, because we're taking 1 million gallons offline. And that does prevent, or it does cost somewhat of a risk to me as a manager. We are always rolling the dice when we take a water tower offline. Water main breaks can occur at any time, and having that extra cushion, I think, is prudent and prevents a little less risk. It still can happen. We had a water main break on River Lane a few years back, and the 12-inch water pipe split 15 feet and drained the water tower in 8 minutes. So by the time wells kick on, it was close. So just trying to manage all of that, I think it's better if we build into the contract documents. It can be started or painted Tower 3 after Tower 4 is up and running.
So you're asking us to deny this?
No, I'm asking that we still approve it, filling in some blanks maybe that I didn't speak on at the Public Works Committee meeting. So those were just some extra thoughts. My first initial thought was trying to get this bid and out to bid with all the design, with all the permit approvals for spring of next year. But I think that's a little too aggressive because we don't know the permitting process time. We're not going to know how much back and forth we're going to have until the contract bids are on the street and contractors call us.
Are they worried about dust? Is it being sandblasted down to the metal?
It's bare metal and it's got to be tented.
Yeah, they usually tent them from top to bottom.
Right. And this is, you know, it's a larger project. There is painting inside and out.
And that's why it would be shut down?
Correct. Yeah, it's a complete drain down.
Interesting. Board?
Motion to approve new business F.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Trustee Jan Miller.
Can you explain what, I didn't quite catch, what your $1 million project was?
That is the Glenwood Park water main relay. You asked me about that last time. It was,
Water relay.
right, it's a combined sewer and water project that's run through engineering, Larry's project. It's west of Pilgrim, North County line. I call it the Art Zabel subdivision, wherever Art Zabel lives.
One of the older subdivisions.
Oh. So north of county.
Is it on the map like
line
that?
And west of Pilgrim.
Correct.
Okay. How long does it take to do, to complete the paint job?
We're going to build in about 90 days.
So 3 months.
So we have to also consider, we have to do a drain down and take it offline, which is probably a week.
Yeah.
Startup could be a couple weeks after again. And also you got to build in inclement weather.
Well, what is the status of, is that number 4 up on Holy Hill? What's the status there? I mean, it's.
Gateway Crossing, from what I just spoke with Director, we anticipate it being up by the end of next year.
We were still waiting for a part or something.
Larry can answer those questions.
PSC.
Oh, PSC. Okay, so what you're now, and then just remind me, isn't the painting of the tower like $500,000? Yeah. So this is.
It could be more, so.
Right.
And again, we're also adding design elements to the project. It's not just painting.
Design, meaning, are you rearranging?
No, so I can go line by line if you want to hear what they are. We've got a design flaw on the door. We get snow drifting inside the tower floor. That's got to be looked at. We've got egress ladders we're installing.
Yeah.
We are looking at a pipe cleaning loop system that has to get removed. That doesn't get used. That's a spider web of pipes. There are hatches on the top dome that have to be redesigned. They weigh about 50 pounds.
Yep.
You had a 20-mile-an-hour headwind and it's almost impossible to get out. So we're going to look at different design elements on that.
Yep.
We have a electrical meter that was abandoned. We're looking at why or if that should be removed.
Okay.
You have a motion? Greg?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Motion by Myers, second by Baum.
Further discussion or questions? Trustee Hudson.
So Bill and Jan are both smarter than I am. So, it says the unit, it's a unit cost and time charges. And yet when I read this document, which I did 5 or 6 times, it's very difficult for me to see what we're actually paying for. And there's no time charges anywhere that I could find. So.
Did you look at Exhibit A?
I thought I did.
Which breaks down by component?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I did look at Exhibit A several times.
Okay. I don't think they're gonna, I mean, they could attach the hourly rate next to that if that would help clarify, but
Well, I guess my question is, are we paying an hourly rate or are we paying $54,000? Because those are two different things.
it's not to exceed. But again, those statements that I made before help cover if there, those unknowns.
Do we know what they're going to charge us per hour?
I don't have their hourly rates.
Do they charge us by the hour?
Normally they do.
So we get an invoice that says 10 hours this week for $57.
I don't know if it's broken down by, it might be by point of what that action was. I'd have to look back and see if their hourly rates were on there.
And is there any way that we can save money by combining this into the painting? So I know the painting, I hope the painting's going to be $500,000, but I don't think it's going to be.
Well, we wouldn't know the total cost of the painting until it goes out to bid.
Right. And we can't combine the design work and this work into the painting to save a little money. It has to be two separate steps.
Well, I wouldn't know how much to ask for, not to exceed on the painting, so that would be a tough one. So this, like many projects, this is the first step, like an engineering water main project, we do the design, whether it's by contract service, and then you take those design elements out to bid.
And then your idea is to get this done when, Paul?
I would like to see that Tower 4 up and running before we take this one offline.
I understand that, but
So,
when?
well, from what I'm hearing, this Tower 4 would be up in service at the end of 2023. So theoretically, it would be 2024.
So should we get the design work done now if we're not going to use it until 15 to 18 months
Well,
into the future?
this is my thought, speaking with the design firm.
Which are the people who we're going to give $54,000 to.
Correct.
Well, they want us to do it now.
Well, it's not like before I was trying to rush it through. We can get this approved and just slowly start, and we can build this into design for next year and get it out on the street by probably August. That would be my goal.
Do you need this done before you can bid
That's
for painting?
Painting is a whole separate.
Right, but does this have to be done before you can put bids out for painting?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Further discussion, trustee Nyrider.
Thank you, Mr. President. My concern, as I told Paul at GGF, was I thought the amount is, and I'm not an expert, seems very high to me. It wasn't bid out so that we know that this company is, and I know you've used them before. The only problem I see is if they're bidding out here, they have to have some idea based on prior experience that they'd have 30 hours at X amount to do this, 20 hours to do this, or whatever. We're not seeing any of that. It's just kind of we'll bill you as time goes along. And 54,000 is a lot of money. And I don't know if it's the right amount for this project or not. It's hard to tell when only one bids. So that was my only objection. I have nothing against FOSS services process.
Further discussion, trustee Jan Miller.
Are you concerned, is the timeline so long because of the back and forth with the DNR? Is that what you're concerned about?
Correct.
Okay. And I agree. I mean, is it possible to get another bid or more detail to this for hourly, if that's how they're going to charge us?
If you're requesting me to do that, if you're asking me to get multiple bids,
That's what I would think a process would be for this type of project.
then that could happen.
Okay.
Is that a motion or a question?
It's motion. I'd like to make a motion to get additional bids on the rehabilitation and painting of the water tower number 3 on Mequon Road.
Motion made. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion on the motion to amend. Trustee Hudson.
That is not going to slow down this process or jeopardize your 2024 timeframe at all, Paul?
No.
Perfect, thank you.
Further discussion on the motion to amend? All those, multiple bids, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None opposed, motion carries. Back to the motion as amended, further discussion. So as it's amended, it would just be now going out for further bids. We would not be approving the 5405.
Correct.
So as it's been amended then, it's for additional bids. Is there any further discussion on that? Because there was a motion and it's amended, we have to do the final vote. No further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Dennis.
One opposed. Motion carries. Next item under new business is item G.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Item G, award of bid package number 2 for the Department of Public Works facility.
Motion to approve new business G.
Motion made. Do I have a second? Motion made and seconded. Discussion or additional information? Mr. Tachek.
So what I'm bringing to you tonight is bid package 2 for the DPW facility. You may recall about a month or so ago, we brought in bid package 1. Bid package 1 was basically bidding out the long-term items such as the precast concrete walls, the steel for the roofing and the interior steel structure, and the generator. I can't remember the fourth item. So this is bid package 2, and this follows up with the remainder of the DPW building site. And there were 12 bid packages let, and total, you have a listing here. And I apologize for getting this out to you tonight. It was bid last week, Wednesday and Thursday morning. I left at 4:30 for a seminar for the next 2 days, so it was as soon as I could get it out to you today. The total bids for all 12 packages came in at $10,682,169. And if you do add it up, you'll find I have a typo on item 11. That should be $283,800, not $183,800. This completes basically the DPW building. There will be one more bid package coming forward, I think in the next month or less. And that bid package is going to include 4 remaining items. One will be the bulk water system, the fuel station, the salt shed, and the yard waste building. Those are the last 4 items that need to get bid. And so along with that, there was we'll discuss this in the next item, and that's how the project's going. But I'm asking for the award of these 12 contracts that were bid so that more construction can go and issue contracts and get these contractors under contract to start ordering their materials and getting ready to perform the work.
Further discussion on the motion to approve. Trustee Jan Miller.
Larry, you have 0 on number 10. Is that intentional?
Yes, 10 and 1 are combined. So that's why I say it's combined with, combined bid with number 1.
I see.
Millis Flat Work, there was an option for someone to submit a combined bid. They were actually the only one that submitted in that item, and they were low with the combined bid. Yes.
Further discussion or questions? We do have representation also here from Moore.
I thought we would discuss in the last, the other bid item, updated facility with, when we might more up with any questions. But it was first if we could handle the award of the bid package.
Sure. Any further discussion on the award of the bid package? Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
There we go.
Trustee Myers?
Aye.
Trustee Baum? Trustee Hudson? Trustee Rick Miller?
Aye.
Trustee Jan Miller?
Aye.
Trustee Nightrider?
Aye.
Trustee Pieper?
Aye.
President Walter?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Update. Department.
Moving on to H. The large sheet I gave you, I printed out so that I could see it and hopefully everybody else can see it better. Itemizes everything that's been bid to date, and the remaining items may have some estimated items in the middle of the page. And better to explain that we Mike Moore of Moore Construction.
Good evening.
Evening.
So right now, I'll go to the bottom line, like you mentioned, trustee Baum. We're roughly 5% under budget at this point, 2.25 million. We do have, like Larry had mentioned, another bid package going out. We call it the ancillary buildings. The fuel station, salt shed, water fill station, those kinds of buildings. So that's our next bid package will be going out. Right now, we're pleased the way the bids came in. One of the biggest items is it appears that we're quite a bit under on roofing. There's a reason for that. It's roofing and sheet metal. And some of the ancillary buildings are going to have the same sheet metal that we have on the main building. So that is yet to be bid. So that won't look like it's that far under budget, but everything else really tied out pretty well. We were happy with the bid. We had 36 total bids, average 3 per bid package, had a good response. Right now, we're tearing down trees, the silt fence is going in place, and we're starting to move dirt. And that's really what the plan was, to get dirt moving this fall so that we can be ready to start putting footings in spring, roughly in March. And so with this award, that'll allow us to get the rebar concrete contractor on board and get things rolling. So that's the reason we're bidding it in the phases that we're bidding. The ancillary buildings will be done later on in the process, so we have some time to focus on those and then get the bidding done. We also felt around this time of the year and around the holidays, it's a good time for us. People are looking for work, and for those buildings, we felt like we'd get better numbers if we waited a little bit.
Some of the explanation added for the items in the middle where you see equipment, that's still an estimated number. That equipment is all for the mechanical bays, lifts, the overhead crane, the paint booth, et cetera. That's an estimated number for that. Furnishings is self-explanatory for the office area. The other site structures we covered. The off-site improvements would be at the existing DPW facility, which would be the abandonment of the old Village Hall, the current office building. The Equipment Building 1, which is just south of that. The abandonment of the existing fuel station that's there, the underground tank, and all that would have to be removed and properly abandoned. Septic tank and well, if we decide to, we'd probably do the well also, but septic tank and well. And then we did look at putting and redoing the roof on the existing salt shed, because we will keep that for some time in the future. So those are the explanation of that one in case someone has an idea of what that is. A monument sign, self-explanatory, we have $50,000. There's a plan to put a digital monument sign at the entrance to the site off of Dodgers Bay Road. And the remainder of TID work, Mike, you can explain that better.
Sure. Part of the road near the cul-de-sac by the DPW is the DPW building. The road is concrete and all the curb and gutters. So the next bid package would be the concrete road and all the curb and gutter that's related to the TID road. So that has yet to be bid, and that's coming out here with this next bid package.
Just for full disclosure, the generator subcontractor Walter, no relation. Also, question on roofing and sheet metal. You feel confident that that price will hold based on it's now contracted and bid?
Correct. There's two things. One is part of that is what I had mentioned, the roofing, the sheet metal component. When we want to tie in the other buildings to make sure the whole complex looks uniform, some of that sheet metal work is being bid out in those ancillary buildings, and that will make this budget that we're carrying. Some of that will go down, but I would say that the roofing insulation and membrane, the materials are starting to normalize now. And so when we put this budget together, we were anticipating higher costs. So it's a combination of there's more scope that'll be bid and then the normalization in the marketplace right now.
About availability, I've seen some buildings around where I work go up with the precast concrete and have sit for months waiting for ironwork to come in to put in the roofing. And in some cases, 4 to 6 months with no activity or workers on site until that iron was received, and then they came back.
Correct. And
That's
that's
what I
the
was-
reason we had the first bid package was the precast, the steel, and the roofing, especially the steel long lead items. So we have it mapped out. At this point, we're tracking so that we're not going to have those big delays having it sit there.
Mike, if I could add, just also the contingency that we're carrying is, we're carrying the same percentage. And when we originally started this estimating process, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, we had a larger contingency because we were quite unsure and a little bit afraid of where the numbers would come in. But they're tracking to come in at what we estimated. So some of that contingency would probably get looked at after we get the last bid package out and see, right, Mike, some of that was just based to cover higher prices than anticipated in our estimate for materials and workmanship.
Correct. And at the time we're putting the budget together, obviously we don't have a full document designed yet. So we were in the mode that inflation was really taking off. We were concerned about making sure that we had accurate budget, but now with the competition, a clear document, and the market normalizing, we're in a good position to be bidding at this point.
Okay, good. Trustee Hudson.
Can we back up to the electronic sign, please? What are we doing with an electronic sign? I'm sorry.
What we have planned was to put a smaller electronic message center sign, similar to what we have out here, but in a smaller scale.
How much smaller scale, please?
A smaller, so that was
16 feet.
Yeah, this sign I was anticipated one the size of at the high school, which I measured, I think was 2.5 feet by 5.5 feet, 6 feet, something at the size of the one at the high school.
And are we going to put messages on there or what?
Yes.
What's the intent?
The intent would be to put messages on there, recycling, I can't say recycling, yard waste, yard open, closed, the dates, start advertising the dates when it's going to be open. We could put any message on we want. You could advertise when the brush pickup is. You could advertise any other things that would put the newsletter we put on the screen, we could put on the sign.
Okay.
It would operate the same way this one does remotely. Our sign can actually be programmed from a cell phone or a laptop. It operates on the Verizon network.
Thank you.
Other questions on the project or the project update? Trustee Myers.
Mike, in regard to the 4 items that you talked about, how much money you have in the budget for those items?
The other site structures is $3,230,673 is budgeted for the other site structures.
For those 4 that you alluded to?
That's correct.
And when do you think you're going to go out for bid for that? Because you said you don't need them really until the end of it.
Yeah, but we intend to within the next month. We have to do public posting. Gray, for the designers, are still finalizing the documents. Once they finalize the documents, then we'll go out to public bidding. And so before the end of the year, our anticipation, because we really want to lock in this budget and make sure we know where we're at on the overall project.
Thank you, Mike.
Any other questions? Trustee Jan Miller.
So when you're bidding this, some of these things aren't going to be put up, received for a year. Are they holding these prices?
Correct, and that's a really good question. So part of the contingency that we are carrying, there's 2 things. One is coming out of the ground. We never quite know what kind of soil we're going to hit. We've done soil borings. We feel comfortable. We know where the bedrock is, but it's still an unknown. So when you run into extra costs in a new building, it's quite often coming out of the ground. The other component is that if there is, we'll call it inflation or things with steel, we have locked in unit prices with the steel and the roofing subcontractors and the electrical. Electrical things have been going up so that in the event that there is a situation when they're bidding now, we have to entice these bidders to come in and bid, but they won't take the risk of saying, well, it's going to be a year and a half from now before I get that product. What do we do? We're asking them to lock in the numbers, the bids based on the pricing right now, give us a unit price for those products, And then when they come to order it, then we will make an adjustment if we have to. And that's part of the reason this contingency is there. If we don't do that, the bidders, we won't get people to bid and they won't lock their numbers in because they can't tell us where it's going to be a year and a half from now.
That's what I thought. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Trustee Byers.
With your last statement, Mike, is there a situation where there's a percentage guarantee between ourselves and the bidders in regard to what those prices might be, higher or lower?
Correct. What we're doing is locking in, they're going to submit, with their bid, the unit prices on steel, for example. And so when it comes time to order, if they say that, hey, the steel price went up $10 a ton, we know how many tons they've bid, and then we know the unit price so that we can make an adjustment at that time. But it's not an open book, free for all. It's on specific materials.
I was hoping it was that way because otherwise it could be, it's
Yeah.
like change orders on,
Oh, yeah.
on a building. It's,
Right.
you're open for bad things.
Correct.
But thank you.
Any other questions?
I could add one thing. I could just add the existing farmhouse that's there. The septic system has been abandoned. The wells, there were two. We found another one in what might have been a milk shed, a building. So two wells have been abandoned. All those articles of the wells removed out of the house. Chief Delane has handled all the asbestos removal. That is done. That's why if anybody drives by there, you can see the curtains blowing through. They actually had to remove windows because the window putty has asbestos in it. And so John Delane is working on setting a burn date. That house will be burned down, and I have not received a date that he has organized that to happen yet. But it'll be used for training.
So both wells that you found were wells that were drilled. Were there any, has that building been there long enough where they could have dug a well?
The well by the house was, they were both about 29 to 30 feet deep. So that's all the deep they were.
But nothing on the outside based on, pre-electricity, or that building
No,
wasn't there that long?
nothing that we could find that way. The well at the Kraus property is 400 feet deep, the next farm to the east. Those wells are on record with the DNR, so that's how they know.
Any other questions? Trustee Jan Miller.
Larry, do you use those wells or do you have to close them?
The wells have been abandoned.
Oh.
They've been, the pumps have been pulled and they've been filled with bentonite chips, which is a proper way to do it, the DNR, and permits were pulled and abandonment forms were submitted to the DNR, all properly done.
Okay. Thank you.
We did hire a well driller to do those. We didn't do it ourselves.
Any other questions? No? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
That then takes us to the last item on new business, which is item K, data recovery. The village board may enter into closed session per Wisconsin statutes 19.85 subsection 1 subparagraph E for the purpose of conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved, and then may reconvene into open session to take such action as it deems appropriate.
Motion to go into closed session, K?
And to include?
I don't do that.
Should include myself, Aaron, and I think we're going to call Steve on the phone.
Village administrator. Okay, motion made and seconded. Discussion on the motion to go into closed session. No discussion. We'll do roll call vote.
Trustee Myers, Trustee Rick Miller,
Aye.
Trustee Baum, Trustee Hudson,
Aye.
Trustee Jan Miller,
Aye.
Trustee Nightrider,
Aye.
Trustee Pieper, President Walter.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, before we adjourn, the next regular village board meeting will be on Monday, November 21st at 7 p.m. And the 2023 budget public hearing will also be held on Monday, November 21st within that village board meeting starting at 7 here at the Village Hall Boardroom. Thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you all for watching, and have a good night. Off with your microphones, please.